Whenever people bring up the idea of trap games or the risk of underestimating an opponent, the first thing that comes to mind isn't necessarily the matchup itself. It's the players, the individuals. Because no matter who lines up on the other side of the ball, this league is about competition, and not just between teams. It's competition within the team, day in and day out. That's why the notion of a trap game doesn't always land when we're talking about a roster like the Steelers. Because this is a group where guys are fighting for every single snap. And when you've got that kind of internal drive, guys pushing each other every day, the idea of letting your foot off the gas just doesn't really fit. Now, let's set the scene. Steelers versus Bengals. Primetime kickoff. Thursday night. Payer Stadium. Two teams, two very different trajectories, and yet, that doesn't mean this is a walkover. The Steelers coming on top of the division, playing tough, gritty football, but still far from being a finished product. And you know what? That's actually one of the most promising things about them right now. The lineup is anything but set in stone. That's not something you typically say about a team that's won 4 out of 5. Usually, a team sitting at the top of the standings has an established core, 11 guys on each side who you know are the starters. That's not the case here. Think about this. Against the Browns, the Steelers didn't just roll out their regular 11 defensive starters. They introduced 12. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't a mix-up. That was Mike Tomlin making a deliberate move. He wanted Nick Herbig treated like a starter. And when you look at the snap counts, it makes even more sense. Herbig played 50 snaps on defense. TJ Watt had 49. Alex Highsmith had 47. That's not just a cameo. That's a real, functioning rotation. And it's not about Herbig leapfrogging Watt or Highsmith on the depth chart. No one's reading into it like that. What it does mean, though, is that they're spreading out the workload in a way that keeps all 3 guys fresh, especially on a short week. And you can bet TJ is all for it. He's been open about how much he likes the rotation, how it lets him go full throttle when he's out there, because he knows he'll get a break. That's a dangerous thing for opponents, a fully charged TJ Watt unleashed in bursts. But this isn't just about the outside linebackers. Let's look at the defensive line. The snap counts there tell an even deeper story. Keanu Benton led the way with 49 snaps. DeMarvin Leal had 48. Cam Hayward was at 43. And then you had guys like Montravius Adams, Armon Watts, and Isaiah Loudermilk all logging double-digit snaps. That's a heavy rotation for a position group where only 2, maybe 3 guys are usually on the field at once. What does that tell you? It tells you there's real competition happening. Not in the off-season, not in training camp, but right now in the heart of the season. That's rare, and it's a huge reason why this group is trending the way it is. If this were a playoff game, you know Cam will be playing more. He'd be pushing towards 60, 70% of the snaps. But in a game like this, it's about keeping bodies fresh and rewarding the guys who are earning their reps. That kind of in-season meritocracy makes it impossible for anyone to coast. If you're Benton or Leal or Loudermilk, you've got no choice but to give everything you've got. There's no such thing as easing up. The guy behind you is just as hungry. And that kind of mentality bleeds into every part of the roster. Let's switch to the offensive side. The competition isn't as heavy on the offensive line. Those 5 starters are locked in, and maybe they're a bit too locked in, depending on how you feel about the left tackle spot. But for now, it is what it is. Against the Browns, all 5 linemen, Mason McCormick, Troy Fatinu, Broderick Jones, Zach Frazier, and Isaac Sumalo, played all 59 offensive snaps. That kind of continuity can be a strength, but it also limits the in-game competition that we're seeing on defense. Where we're seeing battles play out is among the skill players. Tight end, for example, is one of the more fluid positions right now. Darnell Washington led the group with 47 snaps. Jonas Smith had 41. Pat Freiermuth had 21. That's a tight battle, and nobody in that room wants to be the odd man out. Whether it's in the passing game or as a blocker, every tight end on this roster knows they need to make an impact whenever they're on the field. They're not looking across the line and thinking, it's just the Bengals. They're thinking, I need to make this snap count because the other guy is breathing down my neck. Running back, same story. Jaylen Warren is clearly the top back right now, but that doesn't mean the rotation is gone. Najee Harris. Correction, Kenny Gainwell. Actually got more touches than Warren last week despite playing fewer snaps. Why? Because he's more involved in the passing game. That's where he's making his mark. Meanwhile, Caleb Johnson got 11 snaps and 6 carries. One of those was a solid 9-yard run. The rest, not so much. But the point is, he's in the mix. He knows what's on the line. He knows there's no room for complacency. Every touch matters. And let's not forget wide receiver. The second wide receiver spot continues to be a revolving door, and the answer to that question isn't coming from film study or predictions. It's happening live on the field. Roman Wilson got targeted, made a catch. Does he take over for Calvin Austin? Maybe. Maybe it's Scotty Miller. Maybe Ben Skoranek gets more involved. These aren't hypotheticals. They're happening. In real time. In real games. That kind of competition drives performance. When you know the coaches are watching, when you know your job isn't safe, you play harder. And when everyone is playing harder, the whole team gets better. You think any of these guys are looking at the Bengals' record and saying, I can coast tonight? No shot. Not when there's a real chance that the guy behind you is just waiting for you to slip up. So yeah, trap games? Let the media talk about that. Let fans worry about taking the Bengals lightly. Inside that locker room, the only thing guys are thinking about is how to win their rep, how to win their matchup, how to earn their next snap. That's the kind of mindset that makes a team dangerous, not just on a Thursday night in Cincinnati, but for the rest of the season. There's a difference between being deep and being dynamic, and right now, this Steelers team is showing signs of both. Depth means having capable backups. Dynamism is when those backups can come in, contribute meaningfully, and sometimes outplay the starters. That's where Pittsburgh is quietly evolving, and it's one of the biggest reasons this team might have staying power well beyond midseason. You can't manufacture this kind of urgency. It has to be real. It has to be earned. And one of the ways that happens is through the kinds of internal battles we're seeing week after week. When the coaches start shifting snap counts not because of injury, but because of performance, that's when players start paying attention. That's when the pressure builds, not from a scoreboard, but from inside the building. That's a culture shift, and that's what this team is working toward. Take the tight ends again. We've talked about Darnell Washington's physical gifts. We've seen the flashes from Jonas Smith. We've watched Freiermuth try to carve out his role after battling injuries and inconsistency. But the truth is, none of these guys are guaranteed anything right now. It's a straight-up production-based pecking order. If you block, you play. If you catch the ball and move the sticks, you stay on the field. If you don't do either, someone else is right there waiting. And that energy spreads. It pushes guys in practice, and it changes how they approach every snap on Sundays, or Thursdays in this case. That level of accountability is starting to pop up across the offense. The running back room, for example, has always been a high-contact, high-attrition position group. But the Steelers have handled it with intention. Jaylen Warren's shift into the number 1 role didn't come from a press release. It happened on the field. It happened because he kept delivering chunk plays, because he never stopped fighting for yards, because his versatility in the passing game added a new dimension. At the same time, they didn't shelf Kenny Gainwell. He's still getting touches. He's still in the mix. They're not locking anyone out. They're letting the competition breathe. Caleb Johnson's involvement speaks volumes, too. Most teams would stash a guy like that. Keep him on the sidelines. Maybe sneak him into a few special teams packages. But the Steelers are putting him out there in live action. And that sends a message. It says, if you earn it, you get it. No matter your draft status, no matter your contract. If you prove you belong on the field, you're going to get a shot. That's not just good for morale. It's smart football. Fresh legs. High motor. Hungry guys who want to make a name for themselves. That's the kind of depth that can change a game in the second half of the season. Let's not ignore the wide receivers either. Everyone knows George Pickens is WR1. That's not in question. But what's happening behind him is anything but settled. Calvin Austin has the speed, but he's struggled with consistency. Roman Wilson is coming on strong. He's making himself available to the quarterback. Scotty Miller brings veteran savvy. Ben Skoranek can block, contribute on special teams, and be a safety valve in short yardage situations. What's happening is a live audition for the second and third spots in that receiving core. And that's not a bad thing. It's a motivator. It's a way to keep that position group sharp and competitive and to develop chemistry with a quarterback room that's still figuring itself out. And speaking of quarterbacks, this is where things get really interesting. Everyone wants to talk about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, how they looked, how they played, what it meant, what it didn't. But when you zoom out and look at the pattern, there's something more going on here. It's not just about the names on the back of the jersey. It's about what happens to those quarterbacks under Arthur Smith. Let's be real. Smith isn't some quarterback whisperer who turns every guy into a Hall of Famer. But what the data shows, what the results say, is that he gets the most out of the guys he works with. And in a league where quarterback play determines everything, that's a massive asset. Think about it. Before they played under Smith, the group of quarterbacks he's worked with had a collective record of 26 wins and 46 losses. With Smith, that flipped. 55 wins, 42 losses. After Smith, back down to 27 and 34. That's not a fluke. That's a trend. Now, sure, win-loss record isn't the only metric. It's not the most precise way to evaluate quarterback play, but it's a telling one. Because quarterbacks don't win alone. They win when the system fits them. They win when the coordinator adapts to their strengths. They win when the offense is designed with intention, not ego. And that's what Smith seems to bring to the table. Look at Justin Fields. He came out firing in the first 4 games last season. He looked like an NFL starter. He wasn't just running around and making plays with his legs. He was standing in the pocket, reading defenses, and making throws. His performance against the Colts in particular stood out. He looked like he was going to will that team to a win all by himself. And yeah, it didn't last. But that's not entirely on him. Smith built something around Fields that gave him a real shot. That matters. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are turning into a roar in Pittsburgh, as the city that once cheered for Antonio Brown now buzzes with the possibility of a shocking comeback. The former Steelers wide receiver, a figure both adored and controversial, may be stepping back onto the field where he once dominated. Sources close to the team suggest that negotiations have quietly concluded, and Brown could be donning the black and gold once again, sending fans and critics alike into a frenzy. Brown's tenure in Pittsburgh was nothing short of spectacular. Electrifying plays, unforgettable touchdowns, and highlight reels that still circulate among NFL fanatics. Yet, his exit was equally dramatic, leaving a void that no one quite filled. The mere mention of his name in the Steelers' context now triggers debates, speculation, and excitement. Could the team be looking for a jolt of experience? Or is this a bold gamble to reignite the offense? Pittsburgh fans are no strangers to surprises, but this one feels monumental. Insiders hint that Brown has been training intensively, keeping his skills sharp while avoiding the limelight. The whispers began weeks ago, with cryptic social media posts and offhand comments fueling speculation. Now, as the rumor solidifies into something more tangible, fans are imagining the sheer chaos and brilliance he could bring to Heinz Field once more. Analysts are divided. Some see a genius reunion capable of shaking up the league, while others caution that Brown's past controversies could overshadow the thrill. If true, the timing is impeccable. The Steelers' offense has struggled at points, and Brown's presence could provide a spark, both on and off the field. Merchandise rumors are already circulating, with retro jerseys flying off shelves at the mere suggestion of his return. The city, known for its passionate football culture, seems ready to embrace the prodigal son, controversies and all. Pittsburgh may once again witness the highs and heartbreaks that define Brown's first stint, a roller coaster of emotion, speed, and showmanship. As the chatter continues to spread through bars, social media, and sports talk shows, one question dominates. Is Antonio Brown really coming home to Pittsburgh? For now, fans can only speculate, debate, and dream, but the buzz is undeniable, and it's louder than ever. Brown's story with the Steelers may not be over, and the city waits, breath held, for the next electrifying chapter. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.